This is a disclaimer. These stories are graphic and extremely disturbing experiences regarding animal abuse. If you are sensitive to such things, I suggest you stop listening. My freshman year of college, I attended a university in North Texas a few hours away from home. I'm a pretty introverted person, paired with anxiety and a bit of social immaturity, so I did not have many friends. Most of my free time was spent walking around campus or driving through country roads. If I remember correctly, it was late November. It had been very cold and I was particularly depressed that my Thanksgiving break had ended. It was a late evening. Not dark yet, but it was getting there. I was walking alone from somewhere I had been back to my dorm. There weren't many people on the sidewalk, or even on the road that separated the campus from all the bars and convenience stores. I heard a noise behind me and a man zoomed past me on his bicycle. He was a few blocks ahead of me when I saw him pick up a black cat and started walking in the grass near some apartment buildings. I thought nothing of it. I saw many stray animals and assumed he had been looking for one. He picks up the cat and rides off out of sight. I get closer to the main campus area when I see something black moving in the sidewalk. I thought it was a trash bag, but as I get closer my stomach sinks and I realize it's a cat. I'm a few feet away when it becomes apparent that the cat is dying. I'm immediately sick when I realize what's happened. The cat's midline was crushed, obviously ran over numerous times with a bicycle. I freak out. The cat is panicking, stuck to the sidewalks by its own innards. It was obvious to me that this was done on purpose. The cat's hind legs are tied together and being held down by a rock. Its front paws seem to be crushed. I don't know what to do. This animal is in great pain and suffering. I start bawling and call my dad, as if he could do anything, since he is several hours away. He doesn't pick up. I just start running to my dorm. I couldn't bear to look at it anymore. I stop and realize that it probably needs to be put out of its misery. I turn around, even though I know I couldn't kill it. I'm in a place where I can see the cat is moving frantically on the sidewalk. And then I see the same boy on a bike come out of an apartment, walk over to the cat, and I kid you not, curb stomp the cat's skull. It moves a bit more, and then it stops. I'm stopped, just staring. He doesn't see me. I'm just shocked. He picks up the cat and puts it in his backpack and goes back up to his apartment. I stood there for a bit, sobbing hysterically, and I throw up. I had never seen a human being have such a lack of regard for another living creature. I call one of my friends I actually have. He picks up, and after a while I can finally calm down and explain what happened. I ended up going to the campus police the next day and explained the situation, but I never heard if they caught the guy. I never saw him again. And I also never walked down the same sidewalk again. This isn't strictly a personal story, as I didn't actually witness this, but I did hear it from a cop who was there that night. It's not creepy so much as disturbing. I was a Hurricane Katrina evacuee, so I started college in New Orleans and finished in North Louisiana. Between college and grad school, I took a semester break and worked at a Holiday Inn. I worked in the restaurant mostly, although I also helped out with catering and room service. Hotels seem to be hotspots for creepiness, so I've got a few stories to share. Anyway, here's this one. We would get a lot of cops in the restaurant because of our half-price discount on the buffet. One slow night, a group of cops came in. The other waitress was on duty that night and was a big fan of cops. She'd flirt and even date some of them. I let her do her thing because I listened to their conversation. I don't remember how they got onto the topic, but one cop started talking about a weird case that he'd been a part of a couple years earlier. One night he'd responded to a call from a woman who reported hearing strange noises in her barn. When she checked the noise, she saw her brother with his pants down to his ankles standing behind her pot-bellied pig, who was squealing and bleeding. Her brother hitched up his pants and ran off. They later arrested the guy and charged him with animal cruelty. Apparently the pig was pretty badly injured. This is a pretty redneck town, I must admit. We had a fair share of creepers, including the two guys on a different occasion, who got arrested for driving around Walmart parking lot with their winkies out, leering at women and girls. It creeps me out because I used to go to that Walmart and I have no idea if I was ever a target. The user has added an image of the person who did this, and he will be on screen now. This is a story that my dad told me about his childhood neighbours. My dad grew up in good old Vantucky, Vancouver, Washington, out in the woods, away from the inner city part. The way he describes the area during the 60s and 70s sounded more like the boonies than it did the sprawling metropolis it has become. My dad lived with my grandpa. It was just them two. My grandma died of cancer when my dad was only 6 years old. My dad had a few good friends growing up, but he would find himself entertaining himself in the backyard, building shit, blowing shit up with his M80s, the usual for a kid. In his neighbourhood, there was a lot of cats, feral and domestic. He and my grandfather noticed that the cats in the neighbourhood started to disappear day by day. About a week after they noted this all happening, my dad was in the backyard doing whatever shit he was doing, and heard a ton of laughter from his neighbour's yard. His neighbours were off, as my dad explained. It was a single father and 2 sons. No idea what happened to the mother. But my dad said he always heard yelling and fights from their house. Anyway, he hears this manic laughter, and then the lawnmower starts up, so he peeks over the fence to see what all the commotion was. The 2 neighbours' kids, maybe around 10 years old, were playing on their lawnmower. My dad still couldn't figure out why they were laughing, but as he scanned the yard, he noticed that there were cat heads popping out of random holes all over the yard. The neighbour kids has buried these cats up to their neck with their heads sticking out. These 2 kids were taking turns riding the lawnmower over the cats' heads, essentially decapitating them. My dad tried to count as many cats as he could, about 10 he said, before running inside to inform my grandfather what was going on. My grandfather went outside, looked for himself, and told my dad to go inside. He then went next door to talk to the father of the 2 kids. My dad never got told of what happened between my grandfather and the other father, but my dad was told to never associate with the neighbour kids again. Not long after that, my dad moved with my grandfather to another part of the town. Apparently, the older brother of the 2 neighbours, after he graduated from high school, was still with his girlfriend who was a senior in high school. He went to prom with her, and after the prom he ended up raping her and beating her to death with a rock. He is now in jail. Also, the younger brother was apparently in and out of jail, and that was the last they heard about the family once my dad moved up north. The user has added an edit at the end, which reads, "I should note, which I forgot to mention, was that the cats were alive when this was happening. I can only assume that these monstrous children were trapping them in cages and collected them all, one for this twisted event of a day."